Okay, so today I want to talk about the word giants, and I don't have enough time to go over all the etymologies here, but I'll put a lot of it on the screen actually. So I'm talking about the noun, not the adjective. Of course, we have some helpful words like Titan, Colossus, Behemoth, and Goliath that are already pretty common synonyms, and you can generally, people much know where these come from. But the word giant itself entered English in the Middle English period as géant. It came from Old French, which then came from Vulgar Latin, Classical Latin, which actually comes from Greek, right? And the word for giant there, which is related to the giants in their myth. It is the giants in their myth. And has largely replaced the Germanic words. The two slash three in English, and there's another one I want to share that survives in other Germanic languages, but not in English. So the first one is Ent, which of course in Old English is Ent, the exact same. And you can see it in Tolkien, who made the Ents these giant tree people. But essentially in Old English, it means giant of a sort, but we're going to talk about it in a second. Right? In The Wanderer, we have the line, or the phrase even, Auld Enta Yeowerk, which is the old work of Ents, or the old work of giants, as it is often translated. Um, and this is related to the word Ettin, which you might see in Dungeons and Dragons as like a two-headed giant of sorts, and it comes from the Old English word Eoten, or Eotenas in the plural, and may be confused with the word for jute. Somehow that confusion is very interesting, but I don't need to get into that today. It does come from the Proto-Germanic, though, etunas, and that is the same source for the Old Norse word Jotun, or Jotun, if you want to say it that way. And this is glossed by Latin geekus, but if you read the old Germanic stories, like in some of the sagas, which you probably can't see, but they're down there, is that they don't actually, this word doesn't seem to imply large in size, just like dwarves are not always short in some of the Old Norse works. They seem to be rather normal in size. But it does seem to mean something like be related to the verb eat. So actually, an etin or an ent just means eater, essentially, and it might be related to something like cannibalism, that taboo. Of course, the other word I'm thinking of is thurse, which also has a variety of thrush and thrust from Old English thyrse, Old Norse thurs, coming from Proto-Germanic thursas. Actually, the Elder Futhark name for that rune, which is thorn in Old English. It seems to have a meaning in Proto-Indo-European, something like speedy. The other one that doesn't actually survive in English at all, but it does survive in all the other West Germanic languages, would be like German Riese or Dutch Rus, and the last Germanic word coming from Proto-Germanic Rieses, which again doesn't survive in English, but it is actually in Old English or Old Frisian, Old Saxon. So I find it surprising. So it might have been in Old English, but we don't have any evidence of that. So, anyways, those are some words for giant that might be useful to you if you decide to use them, however way you wish.